Hello and welcome to another scene set in the dark, besieged, beleaguered city of Edessa. Still safe behind its high walls, uh, almost Trojan in nature. As we focus once again on the marble castle, the Grand Elysium, one of the grandest buildings in the city, perhaps only second to the palace itself, just in terms of pure aesthetic and construction quality. Something that appears to be made entirely of marble itself. Um, and we begin with Auric just having engaged in a bit of feeding. His herd and that of others are, of course, often present within Elysium. Uh, Quite a lot of humans, in fact, just kind of laying around, unconscious. Others, servants, rushing about to fulfill the duties of their nocturnal masters. As the Baron himself sits down on something of a throne in the Crimson Room. The main plaza is a bit of a pedestal that's been made for where the Auric takes appointments and engages in uh, social forays with the lower class, as it were. And currently, he is just sitting, engaging with his servants and perhaps a certain other Canaanites that may be hanging around within.
Yes, at this point within I guess the best way to put it would be the dining hall, or we would say the courtroom at this point.
Yeah, the Crimson Room is basically where a lot of Canaanites do their feeding. It's also where a lot of talking goes on, basically. There's in the room. It's again, it's like it's this is actually probably the most like this is a almost it's almost a bit uh, Greek in that it's got the pillars holding it up in its style and in a very specific Greek style almost. Um, there's these red drapes that hang down from the wall with this very incredibly lavish and expensive embroidery, especially for the time. There's basically tables surrounding the edge of the room and small beds and velvet sofas, couches, where a lot of the mortals lay. The ones that aren't servants or masquerading as servants. Uh, some of them seem a bit inexperienced at their job. Uh, Perhaps it's just a ploy. In fact, it's fairly apparent it's a ploy. In the middle of the room, there's actually a larger group of mortals that seem to be resting on the bed. Some of which have been clearly fed off of. Some are sleeping just because they're exhausted from the feeding process. Others are just there because they seem to just be out and don't really respond. Like it's quite obvious they've been entranced to a certain extent. They've been forced into this sleep that cannot be roused normally.
Hmm. Yes, but at this point, Conrad would be just sitting at a table, more or less taking in the sights, waiting for, as he would say, important people to take notice and explain his lack of presence of late. Other than that, you'll notice that his bodyguard isn't there at the time, still probably recovering from the unfortunate attacks at the synagogue. So at this
Hmm.
point, He's not wearing his turban covered face, but I can see his scarred, a bit mangled up face. And he's just waiting there patiently and seeing if the seneschal or the bear or anybody else of the court is nearby, so he can explain himself.
Yes, he's on his little. It's not an incredibly. It's not like a. It's not like some golden godly throne. It's still a throne, quite apparently. Um, Having this laced gold trim, and it seems to be ornately carved, and even got a few. You've got a gem at the top of the back. The back of the chair throne almost it basically rises above Ulrich in this rather ornate carving that seems to basically symbolize a crown. So when Ulrich kind of lays back, it's almost as if there's a crown on his head. It's very very regal. Depending on how attached you are to nobility, though, if you've seen the Regent, for example, you know, there are still better things out there. It's still ostentatious, but not so as to be off-putting. To not as if it's reaching an extreme.
Hmm. Yes. So once Conrad takes notice that you are there, he will come at a certain distance and more or less call out, "May I have your attention, sir? I wish to explain myself."
Ulrich looks down on you again. His friend's on a bit of like this small pedestals, set of pedestals, about 3 or 4 steps high. Uh, and yeah, he literally looks down on you, appears somewhat curious. And will say, "Oh, what do you have to explain for yourself, Conra?"
My absence of late. I know that I've heard that there's a ceremony um, celebrating the sabotage of the siege, and I've heard that there have been stirrings within the city, but I've been so caught up with keeping my people in line that I've been rather distant. I wish to apologize on that.
Well, no apology is needed. We all have moments where we keep to ourselves, and no doubt your a good friend needed time to recover from his most courageous efforts in our prior battles. It's understandable. We can't be everyone's after all.
Yeah. He'll respond to that. Courageous it may be, he was sloppy. I'll listen. I'll have to continue on his training. In fact, as courageous and valiant as he was an embarrassment on myself and on you, my sir. But I expect better, and I know you expect better.
Uh, he is only a ghoul. I do not expect much. They are not exactly the masters of the night as we are.
Uh, yes.
But you are also correct. We should always be pushing for the best out of our retainers.
Mm. Yes. Though I will have to commend on your tremendous display in that confrontation. Your amount of strength was staggering. Said I said I've heard the strength of Clan Lifstar, but it was nothing to actually see it in person.
The gifts of the bird are wondrous things. What can I say?
But but at this point, since I have been absent, what works?
Oh, pardon, sorry, you lagged for a minute there.
No. What are our new plans for the Turks? Good.
We have a plan set and ready to react to their maneuvers. We know what they're going to do. We have a means to counteract their strategy.
Good. I'll gladly be a part of it. I have an eye for detail. So,
Discuss matters with Muscovici sheriff, or I believe his name was Koltrakis. Yes, he taps a sword that's attached to his his hip, where it's sheathed. When you get a closer look at it, it's actually quite. It's not only quite ornate. Again, it's also it's quite clearly not. This is not the sword you've seen Ulrich use before. This is not what he used in the battle for the synagogue. This is not what you've seen him use before. In fact, this is very much a ceremonial weapon, and it's clearly not Frankish. I believe he's also shown a lot of initiative when it comes to dealing with the barbarian horde. If you wish to formulate a plan, you may discuss matters with him. The sheriff and the scourge will be coordinating as well. I believe Chartrakus has also stated his desire to assist them in their tasks. They will be leading the war effort.
there's, like I would gladly do so. Though he kind of frowns when you bring up the sheriff. I know that I might have offended him about calling his clan out for being the spy masters that they are. Like, is he one to hold grudges?
Pardon?
Connor's bringing the fact that when you bring up the sheriff, he kind of frowns at that because he remembers that, as he stated, that it seems like the sheriff did not care the fact that I called out his clan for being the spy masters that they are. But when we were first talking about dealing with the seeds, like why not just let the Nosferatu deal with it? Which I guess he felt that I was saying, why not just let the hounds deal with it? We don't need to work. There are hands. We have the Nosferatu. They're expendable as they are. Which was not necessarily his intention. He was just pointing out they are masters at hiding. So why not use them? But because I know the sheriff talked to him about it briefly, of being upset about that assumption.
Luminaries tend to remember slights to their honor, but they're also open to the possibility of redemption. It is in their way to mediate on the appropriate rewards and punishments for certain actions, and to lessen and amplify such things when there has been a change in a person's aptitude.
I'll keep that in mind, sir. Yep.
If I may suggest, it would be wise to educate oneself on the many roads out there. You'll find you can understand individuals on a far deeper level just by having a surface level understanding of their philosophy.
That is true. Like, well, I'll do some research on that. I definitely have the time. Though, I was wondering, um, with the I remember when we sabotaged the seed that we collected some documents. I was wondering if I may look at them, if that was possible.
For what purpose?
Just more or less if I can maybe see something that isn't easily seen within the papers.
Hmm. You kind of takes a moment to consider this.
As the Baron is considering the option presented to him, just from the next room over to near where the front door into Elysium is, some chatter can be heard. It's chatter that you cannot truly understand at first. You make out what the sentence sounds like, though. It sounds like some sort of foreign language, very odd one. As kind of a gruff voice, you hear say the following: "Bedzia Durboy, muy perajala barona ni powina bech perazoyam potweram." And it's just coming from the next door over as the door is opened and in walks a man, very tall and proudly wearing very regal gear. No weapons at his side; they have already been checked at the door. A very beautiful looking man, very handsome, very large mustache, very expensive looking clothing, and as well as jewelry as well. As he enters into the room, four men follow him in, all also two of them appearing to look almost exactly the same as one another. And an older man who is wearing what appears to be the clothing of a barber, one who would dress wounds, and and another who wears the clothing of a warrior. As they enter inside, the Baron, you see, it's very odd. A dog, a very small dachshund, is held by this very handsome man leading these four other men in front. And as they walk in, each of them are wearing large fur hats. Very odd, actually, like this sort of thing a Russian would wear in like the dead of winter. And as they enter into the room and they see you sitting up at sitting there, each and every one of them remove their hats and they all bow. They by standing they bow. I can get this overlay off for a moment. They stand up, putting their hats back on after their bow, and begin to walk forward towards you. These men all appear to be of possibly, you think, maybe each of them are quite pale. They do not look like they are attuned. Not pale as in the paleness of having no blood coursing through them. No, they are. There is coloration to their skin, but paler. They're not. Looks like they are not used to the climate of this area. But as they walk forward and to greet you, something about the one in the front, you feel you recognize him. And he stands before you, says, "I assume you are the Baron." He speaks with a very thick Polish-sounding accent.
And I assume that you have been here uninvited as well with your horde.
It should
Conrad
be
very irritated.
noted for reference that while the two ghouls allowed into the Elysium, there are but Oryx two ghouls are guarding Elysium, and you would be allowed in. The dog would have to stay outside, unfortunately. No pets in Elysium because angry animals and a bunch of canites don't mix.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it did. You
You
know,
might have.
and they,
Maybe you
they,
saw one of the ghoul guards. Probably then you
they
probably
probably they
saw
probably
them.
told him about it, to be honest. Because what they do is they would allow you in, but their swords are out and they are following your group very closely.
Oh yes,
Um,
but that's I assume. But what I was saying, maybe you saw. You probably saw the dog being carried off then.
yes, that is chained up outside. By actually, yeah, it would be just outside the walls. The area is walled off, so you can't actually see what's going on from the outside. There's like a garden area. The area is basically one garden, and there's a small trail that leads up to the building itself. You
All
would
right.
have noticed a horse up there with kind of almost Byzantine armaments, heavily armored. It's literally it's literally a cataphract, actually. Heavily armored horse. That actually, I'm going to say, just for fun, make whatever's your highest perception, animal ken or perception awareness. Where
All
as you
right.
walk to the horse, because it is out in the open, but there's also something off about it.
I think I might be able to tell what's off about it.
Yes.
I don't know if my dice stream is working, so we might have to skip that.
Just tell me what your dice pool is for it, and I'll roll it for you.
No, it's. I think it's. What the hell? Give me a moment. Firefox is going crazy.
That's Google Chrome's job.
Fucking work.
That's okay. Just give me a dice pool, and I'll roll it for you. It's fine.
What was it again? Perception animal can.
Perception animal ken or perception awareness, whichever one's highest.
I don't have either, so 2 dice.
Ooh, okay. Well, one success. Yeah, it's kind of hard to. It's one success. All you can tell is there's something really off about the horse. Like something just seems out of place with it. This it just comes across a bit. Some of the perhaps the way it moves, it sounds a bit off. Like it doesn't sound like a normal horse. Like, it kind of neighs, but there's also almost like it's deeper than it should be. It's almost like it's snarling slightly. It's a bit strange. You've ridden a horse before. You've been around horses. You've never really heard a horse make that sound before. It's very strange, slightly unnerving. But other than that, it doesn't really seem to. Actually, also, what's strange is that it doesn't seem to care too much about you either. You know that unless you've got an offensive to animals. But yeah, it really doesn't seem to care about you at all. It doesn't seem to freak out when you walk by it, which is also strange.
Genuine.
But other than that, it doesn't seem to. There's not too much else other than that about the horse itself. Other than that, it appears as a normal horse, just slightly strange sounding, and also very calm in the presence of a vampire. As we now go to Malkavian messaging, as they broadcast these dementated ads as we experience technical difficulties. What's the red man been doing today? Dementating all the dudes. And also Howard's PC.
Okay, I apologize to anyone who's watching, but audio cut out, and I don't know why.
No problem. Let's just continue.
What were you saying?
So the horse that you see, Yes,
I know that part. The horse is weird.
The horse is weird. It sounds strange, and it doesn't react to you at all.
I have inoffensive to animals, so I'm used to that.
Yeah, in which case that is not really a tell for you. But
No.
yeah, it doesn't react to you, and it definitely sounds very strange. Just the thing that sticks out. It's also quite large.
I probably, as I passed it earlier, I thought to myself, it's probably just a weird Arabic horse.
It's a weird. It's clearly stolen from the superior Sejalug horde and repurposed to be a cataphract, which you'd also know is like Byzantine. That's very much a part of that's standard Byzantine cavalry in a sense. This isn't used a lot by other nations of the time period.
Either way.
Yeah, so that's just a hint. But yeah, that's what you figure out, and we go back to
The present.
Khan randomly insulting this new individual by saying he came in uninvited with his horde.
Hey,
With-
I asked to come in the first time I showed up. I announced myself and everything. I expect the same courtesies from everybody else. He did not. He came in with a horde of people while I'm having a conversation
You
with
don't need to justify yourself. It's cool.
I have every reason to be irritated and insulting this man.
Yeah.
I do not get angry. I simply look at how does the Conrad, whatever your name is, how does he look? What is his appearance?
He doesn't look too old. He only looks about in his mid-20s. He's around 5'9". He looks Arabic, though you see some possible mixture of heritage in him, mainly with his eyes having hints of green in it. The main distinguishing thing about him is he keeps his hair relatively long but clean, but his face is heavily scarred and damaged from prior strife and engagements.
I apologize, sir, but I was simply asking if this was the Baron. Are you the Baron?
I simply turn at the Baron at this point, obviously with disappointment in my face.
All right.
I look back to the man sitting on the lavish throne, and I bow my head again.
The Baron looks down from this throne, looking with a raised eyebrow. He kind of leans forward, as if he's thinking on something when he's looking at you. Like his eyes have narrowed.
I raise my head, and as he is looking at me, I just say, it is a pleasure to meet you, my lord. I am Jerun Lakanowski.
His steepled fingers start tapping. His eyes kind of widen. He leans back. This is where I remember that face from. Yes, I've heard.
At this point, Conrad looks at you inquisitively. You've heard of what, sir? You quit doing that accent.
So, it seems my reputation does travel far. Yes, I am Jerun Lakanowski of Krakow, aka the Oathbreaker of the Headland. I understand you already don't trust me, but I assure you, my Baron, I have not come to your fine city to cause any trouble.
And we should believe you due to your title?
A title is simply a title, given to me by a man who was a traitor not only to Krakow, but to all of the Cainites dwelling within.
You disrespect a prince. You should be concerned. The one of this land would not be so charitable as to have spared your life as the one you now criticize.
Many barons revolted against that prince. And even now he struggles with the reputation he has gained. I may be considered Oathbreaker by him, but I am a loyal vassal to anyone else. I do not know if you know the details of the events that transpired, but I assure you the judgment I made that night was not one that was not unfounded.
Well, as per your very title, you are supposedly a loyal vassal of his. Why are you in my city?
I have simply come here to seek an old friend of mine. I have not spoken to him in about 2 years now. You may have heard of his name. His name is Voivodate Zura. A Nosferatu.
Yes, he is dead. He states that rather bluntly.
You see Jerun's eyes widen immediately. Dead? What?
Yes, the fool left the city and got himself killed in the middle of a siege. I'm not sure what he expected.
You see that Jerun, he appears very, very just awestruck at this for a moment, as one of the men behind him, a much older looking man, almost appearing to be in his 50s, very, very old, especially for this time period, sort of braces his hands against his back because it almost appears off balance by that, almost woozy at you saying that. And Jerun looks back up at you and he says, "How was he killed?"
Marika looks up with a largely irritated glare. I was not there, how am I to know? And he didn't exactly take any company that lived through the experience. We know from second-hand sources.
You see Jerun as you finish that, for a moment, he actually makes the sign of the cross as he bows his head sort of to the ground.
Connor, at this point, seeing that, he'll turn around from it and just look at the Baron.
Baron kind of rolls his eyes. He left my domain. He was no longer under my protection, and well, we will not be exploring measures of vengeance, so to speak. It is not in our best interests. In fact, if what I hear from his friend's retainer is true, then he was actively going against them.
Wait, what was that, Chris? You cut out for a moment.
Ulrich just kind of plainly stated that he went outside his domain, he was no longer under his protection, and that he's not going to be seeking vengeance against whoever killed him. And that is literally, and he even states that's literally not in the barony's interest, the court's interest to do so. And if what his second-hand sources state are true, Voivodate was literally going against the court's interests.
May I ask how he was going against the interests of your court?
He was maybe trying to make allies of our enemies, and then he did not come back. We do not know the full circumstances of his death.
I would think it strange. He was not one for fighting or making alliances. He was a pacifist by all accounts.
You haven't spoke with them in 2 years, you said yourself. People change.
People like him don't change, though.
You'll be surprised what things will happen to people to make them change.
Either way, seeing as how he has died, I would ask if I could possibly see to giving him now a proper service, silent one, but I was a friend, and I wish if you, my Baron, would allow me to at least give him a proper funeral service.
Auric just looks confused at you and just says, "That is your decision, not mine. I do not care. It does not impinge on our traditions."
Thank you.
It shall not occur in any of our domains, though.
It will not. It will simply be a small tribute to his passing.
He just kind of waves his hand kind of uncaringly, like it's whatever to him. This is not something he's particularly interested in. You know, like he's not uncaring, bored. Perhaps is the better word to put it.
I also will tell you of my other intention of why I came to your city, Baron. I came here because I have heard of the war that has been brewing, the siege being laid down by these Turks, and I simply have come to offer my assistance.
And Connor will turn around at this like, really?
Yes, I have come to offer my services, save as many lives as possible.
And Connor will go this, well, Oathbreaker, what exactly can you provide to the Baron that won't involve possibly stabbing him in the back?
I have no reason to go against the Baron. None whatsoever.
Now, as I said, things change.
Maybe your opinion of me will change in time. What I am offering is simply helping stop these Turks from destroying this city. I'm a warrior by my trade. I'm not one for harming people. I'm more or less a tactician, as it were. I fought in the Western Pomeranian conflict. I know how morale-breaking tactics against an enemy, minimizing the body count, but breaking the morale of the enemy troops. I can offer that as long as I'm allowed to live under the supervision of the Baron.
I don't see how this provides us with anything we don't already have, and I don't see how such tactics could be applied to a completely unknown enemy to yourself. Have you ever fought a Turkish horde before?
I have fought many savages before, my lord. I do not think they would be that different than the Baltic savages.
You would be incorrect.
For savages, they are skilled, and as far as I've saw from the camps, are not totally incompetent. These are not mere savages; they are like beasts with human cunning.
So very much like the Baltics and the Western Pomeranians. I know how to break the morale of a man. And I can demonstrate these skills. I am not asking for anything other than simply allowing myself to make a haven here. That is all. And I will fight for you. If you do not wish me here, then you may cast me out of the city, but all I ask for is a simple chance to prove myself.
And Conrad will look at him more or less expectantly, but showing signs of more or less apprehension of this.
Ulrich doesn't look too convinced. Any comparison to these these other barbarians seem to either go over Ulrich's head, or he just doesn't care, or he just looks unconvinced. Clearly, he puts more emphasis on the Turkish horde than this enemy he's never really interacted with before, and doesn't really. Yeah, it doesn't really register with him. It does register with him. Like, he does obviously react to what you're saying, but doesn't resonate with him. Is perhaps a better term of phrase.
As he sees this, he looks at you and says, "Well, if you do not want me, then I will leave. But I will also say this: I've survived many things before. If you do not believe me, I have actually survived lupine attacks. I know how to get rid of those as well."
Really? You can survive the wear things that.
If you don't believe me, would you like to see the scars?
I have scars. I can easily say that they came from the wear as well.
One of the men behind him, a man with sort of, not exactly a bowl haircut, but very close to that, also with a mustache, sort of speaks up and he says, in very, very broken, what language are you all speaking here, by the way, Arabic or French?
I'm going to be speaking Arabic more naturally because I'm from Mecca, so...
Alright, so yeah, very, very broken Arabic. One of the men speaks up and says, "It's true, you know. We helped us kill the beast that tried to kill our friend here." Jerun just sort of looks at the man at the ghoul behind him and says something to him in Polish, and the ghoul stays quiet after that. But yes.
Yeah, Connor will look at the ghoul and look at you. Your fellows speak out of turn. He does not announce his presence, he simply answers. I am used to such decisions, but as I will tell you as I treat mine, I punish those who disregard the sense of etiquette.
I do apologize for my friend here. He is one that does not understand all customs yet, and I've still been trying to teach him.
At this point, you keep speaking that you can break the morale of men. What exact tactics are you expecting to be using on the Turkish horde that would prove yourself so effective?
Poisoning the food supply, scaring them into submission, laying traps, ambushes. Take your pick. I know how to do it.
Mere guerrilla tactics, which can be effective, but must be used with great subtlety to be so. You,
We already have a battle plan that counteracts the Horde's very maneuvers. We already have all the warriors we need. We have thousands of them, several specialized ones as well. What is another body at this point?
You cut out again. What?
He says, we already have a battle plan that counteracts the very strategies of our enemy. We have... what do you call it in the old age? In Intel, basically.
oh,
We have their... We have
knowledge.
their own...
Oh.
We have their own plans. We have the safety of our walls. We have all the manpower we need. And we have 2 substantial lines of communication which are going to be bringing us reinforcements as we speak. What
And
is
are
another
you-
body at this point?
Another
Does this
mouth to
provide
feed,
us?
another person to worry about. My Baron.
Are you sure those lines of communication are completely safe?
Yes.
Conrad was kind of narrow his eyes at that. Do you know something that we don't, Oathbreaker?
I do not know anything. That is why I am asking questions. I am simply offering a service, and if you deny it, then that is that. But a gangrel like myself could offer great things to your city. I could defend it. But if you do not want that, I will leave. I will leave. There's the doors right in back of me.
But you're already here. If you are such an Oathbreaker, then you knowing that our location would mean possible disaster for us. You could easily tell our enemies just out of pure spite. What says that we don't just simply take your men at this point and finish you off now, just to make sure our safety is secure.
Ulrich leans into Conrad's ear. Presumably he's fairly close to the throne. And he'll just whisper, I do not think our enemies will be particularly interested in hearing him out.
I only wish for your he'll whisper, I only wish for your safety, Baron. This
Oh no,
man-
he smiles as in like the implication is that they just kill him. There's a very clear implication. He's not saying this to be merciful.
Oh, Connor will sigh under his breath. I say you this, Oathbreaker. My people could always use an extra hand around for menial labor and work. I'm sure your kind can be useful in that. He turns to Ben. If I may, let him be a porter to my house, and I will keep an eye on him so he can be useful to at least me, and in turn useful to you, sir.
Of course, I hope you understand this may result in some visits from time to time.
Of course, I wish to gladly host you. As I said before, I'm much in the preparation to have any celebrations for our victories.
Jerun smiles at this, says, I will take that offer you make.
He's being extremely charitable. You owe him much.
Connor will turn around. Be aware, I saw your religious implication. I will not have that in my house. If you wish to do such things, do it without me noticing it or my servants. If not, we will have words.
Which is fine. I understand that many do not care much for the Christian faith. My own men here are not always happy with me doing that as well. I come from a predominantly non-Christian country, you see.
I could care less that you worship. He stops himself and he looks at the Baron. If I may speak freely.
Baron just kind of waves his hands as if, just go ahead.
Like, I give no cares for your God or Allah, whatever the humans worship. They have no bearing in my life. They have no power. We have power, the kindred. I have not seen
Nice.
God. I have not seen God do anything of late to make these humans feel any more comfortable. Nor Allah, nor whatever pagan being whatever you, the humans, believe. Remember, what decides our fate is our own actions. The gods have no purpose here, they have no power. The Baron has power, I have power, you have power. They do not.
Jerun just nods at this. He's smiling still. It is fine. We all believe in what we believe.
This is not a belief, it's a fact. And all they use those pitiful names for is for their own machinations.
It's all subjective. He smiles again. I do not care if you berate my belief. You have the ability. You are allowed to, and I hold no grudge. Everyone has their own views on everything, and if you believe that is fact, then you believe that is fact. I have nothing against that.
We are not here to debate religious philosophy. Get back on topic.
Yes. Forgive me, sir. So if you're in accord of our agreement, you are to be working under my supervision. I will come to you with a servant of mine to give you my locations that you'll be aware of. And you'll be working in menial labor with your people, mainly keeping hubbling with the cleaning and repairs, and hopefully soon building of my new inspired mansion of my design.
You owe both of us major boons for this allowance.
Jerun nods.
Consider that merciful. The Prince of Jerusalem would have simply killed you the moment you walked in.
The smile on his face has still not changed since he walked in.
At this point, he's still just Conrad staring his eyes at you. Well, if you have nothing else to say with us, is it Jerun, if I remember correctly?
Yes, Jerun.
Jerun. I would advise you to establish yourself in the most positive light while within the city. So if there's any other kindred that you wish to see within the Elysium, I would do so now. Do be aware your actions will be watched and will be dealt with severely. If you would allow it, Baron, I'd like to continue our conversation.
Yes, thank you, my lords. He bows his head, and his men do as well. And he proceeds to leave the room.
The moment he is gone, and sorry, Jerun, right? Okay.
Yes.
Yes. The Jerun is very much escorted out of the building, like to the point where he's literally taken all the way outside the walls, and then the wooden gates that adorn the walls. You know, it's not really to keep people out more than it is to look pretty. They just shut, they slam in your face, or in your back rather. Literally, if you'd been an inch closer, they would have just smacked right into you, and you can hear chains, presumably. Back in the building, however, we have Auric, who, the moment Jerun is out of sight, will just let out a beleaguered sigh.
Honor will look at the Baron. If this was not the Elysium, I'd tear his mind asunder.
I would have simply cast him out. I'm amazed you decided to let him stay.
A body is still a body. He can be useful.
I suppose. But what of the risks? He's not reliable. And we seem
Obviously.
to be very keen to ask questions.
I don't dislike questions. I dislike the lack of respect he had for either of us. No, neither announcing his presence nor his title, bringing in a horde with him, ghouls or whatever those may be. I did not bring my servants into the Elysium. I only brought my bodyguard. Like he easily could have tried to storm this room. Of course, fruitless it would have been. The risk is still there.
He could have tried and he would have failed. This place is quite secure. But I am glad he did most of the conversing. Every moment I have to converse with an Oathbreaker is toxic to my being.
And these are the house of the Fang. They have the ability to transform themselves, as we all know, and I heard their claws are as dangerous as a lupine.
Yes, there was another gangrel who served as my scourge briefly. Unfortunately, he met his end to one of those things, foolishly trying to tear it asunder. I do not buy this man's bluster.
Regardless, if it is true, I'd like to gather as much information as I can of these creatures. And if I am forced to ever interact with them, I'd like to have some variancy of an edge.
It's not about outrunning the lupines. He smiles.
Yes, it's about
Oops, sorry.
Yeah, he goes, as you said, not running. It's like, yes, it's about tripping the one next to you. I know how to deal with wild animals, sir.
Then you should be able to handle the wild animal you've just invited into your home. Although, I do hope you'll understand some semi-regular visits from the Sheriff and Scourge, just to ensure that your new house guest is not misbehaving.
Of course. No, I'll definitely need to make sure he's not causing too much of a ruckus in the noble quarters. I don't need him making my food feel uncomfortable.
Should he rattle any part of this city, he'll die a most unscrupulous death. This entire city is my domain. I shan't have it slighted another time.
Do please allow me the honor. I need more practice with my mental disciplines. I think you'd be an easy enough target.
Perhaps you could teach him to break a man's morale.
At this point, I have to figure out whether or not I want them on my land or simply nearby. I'd rather not him know exactly where I am, nor be around my people for too long of periods. So I might see if it's alright with you. Just give him a place in the racks and invite him within my home when I need him.
Auric thinks on this for a moment. You'll need to establish where he's going to be so that we can locate him should things go awry.
Oh, that I
Because
am
oathbrokers are not known for keeping oaths.
obviously. I'd rather, and since he's within such a horde, I won't just have Grant taking care of him. Like, Grant may be incompetent, but he has potential. I'd rather not waste it on him.
Yes.
I like. I will establish a place within the racks, and I will have some of my friends keep an eye on him.
Mm.
I have not stated, but I am well versed in the sludge of society, and will simply pay them a minor fee to keep an eye on them. And if so, if needed to be useful distractions or banes to his livelihood.
If I were to be a bane to his livelihood, he'd simply be dead.
Why give him the satisfaction of peace when we can just torture him?
Not worth my time, and besides, if there is even a remote chance he may escape, I do not want an Oathkeeper escaping the example to be made of him.
And Connor smiled at this. Oh, trust me. If there's a reason for him to be in such a situation, he'll be too much busy babbling in his own sleep than be able to run. I'll make sure of that.
Good. Shall inform the city and the Harpies of his worth,
But
and
if
of your great generosity in the matter.
I am a generous man, but I'm also harsh. My master taught me well in such a manner. And when he says that, he's referring to his previous human master, not his sire.
Hmm. Does Zorik to think on that for a moment? He doesn't really give any expression. His eyes just kind of shift away from you as he drifts off into a moment of thought before drifting back towards you. Oh,
He
then.
should I do an empathy roll to kind of understand possibly your intentions, or can I assume?
Yeah, no, it's fine. Auric will be rolling to counter this.
Alright.
And he actually rolls fairly well.
Let's see. I wouldn't say I know you very well, so at this point, perception, empathy, that'd be 5 dice for me.
Okay. Auric gets 3 successes. Oh, only 2. Yeah, you can't really get even if it 10's specialty. Yeah, you can't really gauge him. He doesn't really seem to give any. He just looks like he was of thought. Yeah. Other than that, you can't really detect any real emotional expression on his face. He looks rather plain. The only thing you could really tell from this is that he's very practiced at this, which makes sense. He's the Baron. It would make sense that he's very good at courtly maneuvers and knowing when to conceal and express intent. But that's it.
Yeah, I definitely could tell that my character's accurate in most. Besides being a highly trained aspect, he has accurate senses, so you can tell that you're
Oh,
hiding
did you
yourself very well.
have?
I have
Yeah.
accurate sight and hearing.
Okay, I don't think I'm not sure if that would apply on that empathy roll.
No, at this point, if I could notice this, I could notice slight distinctions in how you're carrying yourself physically, not emotionally. So
Okay.
I could possibly tell, like, if you're trying to lie to me, if you have some type of physical tell, I can catch that a lot easier than most people
Yeah.
could.
Oh yeah, Auric doesn't have any. He doesn't have the tickle twitch force, so he doesn't have any real physical tells. But no, he just thinks on that for a moment.
So, like, the only thing else I could use is clearly logical, but you're not using your emotions to cloud my judgment. So
I see. Well,
Though Conroe will bring
Make-
up with your thought. Did you ever want to talk to me about the child? The one that was in shock from the siege, because you did give me a concerned comment when you said when I was trying to fix her. So he's bringing that up because he did notice it, and he doesn't want to make you feel uncomfortable of his abilities.
No, it was just the incorrect time to attempt such a task. No doubt she's most well right now, anyway. She has been returned to her family, and no doubt that life is beginning to return to normal for her. I understand your attempt to help, but generally when people are in very sensitive situations, it's best not to make an attempt at manipulation, or it may escalate.
I agree with you in that sense. Maybe I was being a bit too heavy-handed with my intentions, though. I would say from how I was taught from my sire that the mind is a fickle and fragile place, but with enough practice it could be manipulated and changed like anything else. But if this is all, I will make sure to inform you as quickly as possible with the Jerun situation, and I'll find a place for him to stay.
Indeed, do so, and ensure that he does not attempt to sneak away.
So, like I said, I'll have my rats follow him. I said if he's still lounging around the Elysium as a sad puppy, I'll just talk to him now about this. Might as well not waste any time waiting.
Make sure to chain your dogs.
He sighed at that. Yes, I'll make sure that he's properly secure, sir.
Very good.
And he'll bow and leave to that, and actually check outside Elysium if he's still out there.
Is Jerun still out there, or has he left?
What?
Did Jerun when the yeah as you leave
I'm assuming
Kara-
I would have left. I'm
Okay.
probably trying to take in the city itself.
Okay, then I will notice that he's not out there, then curse at that. Now I have to find him. Great. Now I...
Go put them those enhanced senses, man.
Wah, wah, wah.
Gotta sniff him out, track his scent. He's a gangrel, he smells.
It's not how that works.
And with that,
With that, we will, I believe, end the scene. Good night.